Hi, Joshua M. here, and I'm here to talk to you about the very first piece of my Contemplate series titled Still. It's as if Malik El-Shabazz, or more commonly known as Malcolm X, returned to us in this piece in 2023 and asked a simple but yet provocative question: still. All right, so as we get into the artistry of the piece, it was a creative decision for me to really play a bit with the narrative, if you will, and challenge our thinking with Malcolm X. And so I kind of took that right on the nose and painted Malcolm in a green color. And the green is purposeful because, typically green is associated with peace and calmness and evergreen and naturalness. And so, he has this narrative, a false narrative, that he is a violence monger. He's all about, aggression, if you will. And so I wanted to paint him in the opposite color, and green typically is associated with calm and peace. So that's the intentionality around why I decided to keep him in the green hue. In all my pieces, I like to create a sense of white space, letting the portrait itself breathe a bit, give your eye some room and to take a breath. I don't want to just barrage the entire canvas with colors throughout. I want to give you a chance to, as you scan the image, your eye gets to take a breather a bit. I also, in all my pieces, like to focus in on a single word, to really embody the piece here. And in this case, the word from Malcolm X was the word still. And it's not just a word, it's a question. He's asking, still, are we still in the place that he left us when he unfortunately passed away? Are we stagnant? Are we not moving in the right direction? Is America still struggling with the issues of the older days? With discrimination, violence against minorities and people of color. Are we still moving forward and moving that advancement, or are we stagnant? So the word still spoke to my spirit, and that's the word for Malcolm. It's a question. It's not still, it's still. It's an interesting play on that. The other thing about this piece that as I was looking through for photos from Malcolm, it's a challenge because, as you can imagine, with an icon of his nature, he's a global icon, and there's probably 2 to 3 photos that stand out the most as they relate to Malcolm X. It's typically one, him preaching behind a podium, him standing in the window with the AK-47. Those are iconic photos, no doubt. But I had to scour the internet to find a photo of him that was in a different light, that wasn't common. And I try to do that with all my subjects, is try to find something that's not a common photo of them. And so I landed on a photo from a Spanish magazine, Malcolm Speaks magazine, and he's got a smirk on his face. He's got somewhat of a smirk, a laughter, and it's something I never quite seen Malcolm too much. I've seen the big glowing smile, and I've seen the anger look, but not quite this in-between smirk. And so I thought that would be an interesting photo to use as my subject for this piece. And so I found that photo, and then of course I really landed on trying to show him in a different light. As we look at the teardrop, it has 2 meanings. The first is that it's Malcolm shedding a tear for sadness, for the current state of where we are as a country, sadness of his untimely death. The other part of this meaning for the tear is that we often forget that many figures like Malcolm X and MLK and so many others, their legacy is stained with the blood of violence. And oftentimes in February and Black History Month, we like to show pictures of them smiling. We like to have very warm and friendly images of our heroes, but we can't sweep under the rug that these folks left this earth in a violent way. And so that's what this is. When you see 21 gunshots, Malcolm X died of 21 gunshots in the Audubon Ballroom where he was assassinated. You look at Martin Luther King here in this image, and I had to just include Martin Luther King somewhere in here because Malcolm X is mostly compared to Martin Luther King from a comparison and contrast perspective. And we know that these two brothers, they found a peace with one another. They have differences of opinions for sure, but there's more symmetry than there was difference. I don't like is that, again, the legacy of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, in my mind, are both misunderstood. Additionally, a good friend of Malcolm X was Muhammad Ali. And so Muhammad and Malcolm formed a great friendship, one of admiration on both sides. And so I included Muhammad Ali in this piece to pay homage to Muhammad Ali, the greatest to ever do it. So as we look at the moon and stars imagery here, there's two meanings there. The first is pretty obvious in that the moon and the stars are symbolic for his Islamic faith. Malcolm was a devout believer, and so I wanted to pay homage to his faith there. And then in addition to that, there are one moon and 6 stars. The 6 stars represent his daughters, his only children that he left behind, and the moon represents his wife. And so I just wanted to pay homage to his family in this piece. As we turn our attention to these symbols, each of these graphics here are a seed of the date palm. And the date palm tree really spoke to my spirit as it related to Malcolm X. They're mostly from the northern Africa region, or arid locations, desert locations. And I felt that Malcolm's spirit really lived in that portion of the world where he found his faith. And so each seed that you see here represents 1 year of Malcolm's life. And so there's 39 in total. As we turn our attention to the seeds again, you'll notice that the earlier seeds had no roots, but then they start to sprout and take root really when it gets to these blue highlighted seeds. There's 7 total, represent his years in prison. Malcolm, in his own autobiography, mentioned that he had learned about his faith in prison, but in addition to that, he read books and he educated himself. And he said that prison was a benefit to him at the end of the day, because that's when he educated himself and truly became the Malcolm X that the world now knows. From the point of his seeds taking root and as he left prison, then Malcolm really, as you can see, the seeds here start to sprout and the tree starts to form, branch by branch, if you will, and the roots get deeper and deeper. And that is symbolic for Malcolm really walking into and flourishing, really starting to grow into his faith and grow into the legend that we know today as Malcolm X. And as those trees continue to grow, unfortunately, as it gets down to that 39th tree, you can see that it's chopped in half. And the dates that are on that tree and that branch, you can see as they start to fall down off that tree. So in one instance, it's very sad that we've lost him. But in the other instance, you can see, again, that the fruit, the dates themselves, fall to the earth. And as they work their way down, they land on this symbol of a globe. And basically, that's symbolic for his legacy, spreading throughout the entire world. If you really pay close attention to it, I wanted to make sure that you see that some of the seeds have broken and not taken root. And that is symbolic for his legacy. In a lot of instances, us not walking out his legacy, and that it's lost, that it's misunderstood in current day. And in other instances, you can see that it has taken root. So this is kind of like a twofold meaning there as well, where you see some seeds sprouted and some didn't. And so I wanted to make sure that we capture that in this piece. So I think it's important to really focus in on the locations of Malcolm's life. And so I picked 3 significant locations. As we zoom in to his frame of his glasses, you can see that there's an image there, and it's actually the outline of current day Omaha, Nebraska, where Malcolm X was born. Then as we move further into his forehead area, you can see a silhouette there, and that's representative of Mecca. That's the outline of the city of Mecca, where we know that Malcolm truly transformed and his faith really got more holistic. He really learned there that all men are created equal, no matter what their skin tones are and shades are, and that they all are deserving of justice and dignity. That was a very transformative time for Malcolm, and so that's why I have it right in the center. And then as we go further to the right, you can see here is Manhattan's outline, and that's where Malcolm's life ended through an assassination at the Audubon Ballroom. So those are my interpretations of this piece. But I'm curious, what does Malcolm's question still mean to you? Thank you.